like I'd really like to hear something from the Titans on this in a reaction. Um, on the surface, I think it strikes me as kind of a Patriots sort of move. You know what I mean? It's remember we talked about the Matthias Ekholm trade. When is a guy going to be valuable as a trade asset? If you're just simply looking at it as an asset, and I think we got to get into what Derrick Henry means to the Titans, right? Because that's the real story here, if this is true. But as far as an asset, an aging running back who has been a brilliant player, if you can get value, it's much better to do it a year early than a year late. I think the Patriots were very successful in a lot of trades through their golden era, right, of making that move. And they were successful a lot. Now, I don't know what they would expect in return. So I can see it from that standpoint. What really would surprise me, though, is just knowing what Derrick Henry means to the team, what he means to the entire organization, the fan base. You got to be careful with stuff like that. Like if they just came out at the draft and said they're trading Derrick Henry, can you imagine what the storyline would be and the reaction would be?
Oh, I think that there are a lot of Titans fans that would be irate because you view Derrick Henry, he has been the core of this team for so long. But I have a bunch of questions about the report. And to your point, Willie, about who is Michael Silver, he covers the 49ers for the San
Oh,
Francisco Chronicle. He works for Valley
Michael Silver.
Sports.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't catch the name. I heard
Yes,
Valley Sports. Michael Silver is a very noted cover of the NFL. Goes back a long way. Okay, that so there is some credibility there. He's a guy that
absolutely some juice
isn't
there.
a nobody for sure.
And I think another point too, when as all of these stories start to come out, or all of these rumors start to come out of what people have heard at the NFL Combine, if they don't have direct connections to the Tennessee Titans, that doesn't necessarily, sway me one way or another of how much I should believe that report. Because even though that person may not have direct ties to the Tennessee Titans, they have direct ties to another team within the league. So the Titans could have been having conversations with that team, and that's where that person could have picked up the tidbits and the rumors here and there. But my next question about it is, what exactly does shopping mean? Because shopping could be anything as simple as, hey, we're not completely committed to Derrick Henry moving forward. We're having thoughts about, what our team could look like in 2023. Does that involve Derrick Henry or not? Or it could be as serious as we are willing, whatever the best offer that comes our way, we're sending Derrick Henry there. So I think that there's a big spectrum of what exactly shopping could be. My next point is I think the Titans should be shopping Derrick Henry. I don't think any of us really know what this Tennessee Titans team is going to look like in 2023. The first question is, who's your quarterback? I think we could all agree that Ryan Tannehill probably is going to be the quarterback in 2023, but I'm also not counting out the possibility of the Titans completely going for it in the draft. I'm not counting out the possibility of the Titans. Aaron Rodgers is still on the board. Aaron Rodgers could still be out there. I know that all of those things kind of seem a little bit more far-fetched, but still on the table. That's the first question to ask. And if you're moving off of Ryan Tannehill, if you're going to find your quarterback of the future, if you're going all in on Aaron Rodgers, whatever it might be, where is Derrick Henry's role in all of that? And the other thing is, let's be realistic. Derrick Henry's a 29-year-old running back. History shows us that that's when running backs start to decline. I understand Derrick Henry has done things that no other running back has done. So if Derrick Henry if anybody is going to, change that trend of running back decline, it could be Derrick Henry. But I also think that there is a lot of validity in getting out before it gets bad, getting out before the decline. Get out a year too early rather than a year too late when you're on the hook for the contract and for the money. So I know so many Titans fans here, the Titans are shopping Derrick Henry, and they want to go freaking ballistic over it. I get it. He's your guy. You've got the 22 jerseys. You think that, Derrick Henry or bust. I get that. But the Titans should be doing their due diligence. The Titans should be shopping Derrick Henry. I would say at this point, anything is on the table except Jeffrey Simmons for me, including Derrick Henry, because he's 29 years old. Let's be realistic about it.
This also goes back to a theme that I've been throwing out there the last couple of weeks as Rand Carthon gets more and more familiar with what he has. He said he wanted to get to know the people, so he's been doing that. The combine going on, and as he really assesses the roster, and we have the reality of the AFC, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, Joe Burrow and the Bengals, Josh Allen and the Bills. You got some heavyweights. If you're really going to do any damage, then it's got to go through those teams and a few others that we can throw in there. It's a very deep conference. You have an aging quarterback and an aging running back and a roster with a lot of holes, including an offensive line that you've got to really, reconstruct, if you will. So if you come to the conclusion, look, where we are cap-wise and what we need, it's really going to be tough to make another go of it, then is this a signal that it's time to take a step back, to take a couple of steps forward, kind of like the Predators are trying to do right now? If you're shopping around Derrick Henry, I think you know what your answer is.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're shopping around Derrick Henry, I think that is the indication that they could be looking ahead to the future, that they may be looking at it and say, hey, our window with Tannehill and Henry and the rest of that core, the Simmons, the Byards, I don't think they're going anywhere. But let's say our window with Tannehill and Henry, after that game against Cincinnati, that divisional round loss, I think that maybe that's where they saw the window shut. And they gave it a go this past year, and injuries got in the way. I understand that. But they may have looked at it this past year and said, look, in this AFC that is so quarterback heavy, in this style of play in the NFL where it is so pass heavy, and I know Rand Carthon wants to continue to run the ball, and they don't have to abandon that identity in order to get this team back into, or to get this team more competitive with the rest of the AFC, rather, in the way that the AFC is going right now. They may look at it and say, look, our window with Tannehill and Henry has closed. And if they have acknowledged that, if they see that, if they've admitted that, then I think that you have to move forward with what the rest of your options are. And the next part of it, too, is it's also a business. The Titans are probably going to have a very big price tag with Jeffrey Simmons coming up. The Titans, from where it stands right, and we heard from Jeffrey Simmons in his sit-down with The Athletic, he said, they don't know how they're going to pay me. I don't know if that's the reality of what the Titans are facing, of being cash strapped, or I don't know if that's just some sort of negotiating tool that the Titans have used to scare the living daylights out of Jeffrey Simmons' agents. I don't know whatever that is with the Titans. But Jeffrey Simmons said that the Titans said to him, we don't know how we're going to pay you. If the Titans are in fact cash strapped, they may look at Derrick Henry and say, we could free up almost $7 million of cap space, and we could free up that money that we're paying Derrick Henry for an aging running back, and we can continue to build for the future. So I know that this is intimidating and very scary to Titans fans, but I look at it and say, the Titans are doing their due diligence. It doesn't mean that Derrick Henry is going out the door today. It doesn't mean that Derrick Henry won't be a Titan in 2023. It just means that the Titans are keeping that option on the table of Derrick Henry or not in 23.
And here's the other thing that I would think is, as you try to gauge this, if I'm on the other, I think you're trying to gauge the market. You're not just trying to dump him, right? I would hope that you're sitting there going, man, you would have to give me something in return. Because as we talked about with Matthias Ekholm, they didn't have to trade Matthias Ekholm, the Predators, but they got an offer where they said, wow, this is worth it. And this is probably the most we're ever going to get back for a guy like this, and we're willing to make this move. I wonder what the trade market is for Derrick Henry, Caroline. It's not like you're going to get a first-round pick back, I don't think. People usually aren't trading for running backs like that, especially with the price tag that comes with him, right? He's getting paid more than just about every other running back. And at 29, that's a risky deal. Right? And so you're not going to give much back in return if you're going to take that contract on, I would think. And
that's what I want to get into coming up next, because I think that's a very fair point. What is the market like for a 29-year-old running back? I know it's Derrick Henry, who is a superhuman freak, but let's look at the market. How worth the Titans' while would it be to deal Derrick Henry? What would the return look like? We'll get into that coming up next. And, of course, your phone, 615-737-1025 is our phone number. It's Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 1025-1063 The Game.
185! Every team needs a quarterback. 185! That's why we have
Hasselbeck, bootleg, rollout, toss, touchdown.
Tim.
You can run good plays at the right time.
ESPN NFL analyst Tim Hasselbeck gives his expertise on all things NFL.
You evaluate players, and then you're turning them over to the coaching staff.
Every Tuesday at noon.
At the right time.
With Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase. Tim on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
This week in Vanderbilt history, March 11th, 2012. The win was big, but certainly wasn't easy in New Orleans as the Commodores recorded one of the most important victories in the history of the men's basketball program. They defeated top-ranked Kentucky 71-64 for the first SEC tournament championship in more than 60 years. Vandy finished the game on a 16-2 run, holding the Wildcats without a field goal over the final 8 minutes, had to 35% from the field for the game. Jeffrey Taylor scored 18 points. John Jenkins and Festus Ezeli each had 17. As Kevin Stallings' team fought back from 7 down to tie and take the lead with less than 2 minutes to play. The emotion poured out as the final horn sounded and the confetti flew, and the Commodores claimed their first SEC tourney title since 1951. Vanderbilt got the automatic bid for the NCAA tournament and played in the big dance the following week in Albuquerque. It was quite a party on a Sunday in New Orleans. Commodores 71, Kentucky 64, March of 2012. This week in Vanderbilt history, I'm Kevin Ingram.
Coration CBD products. Coration began as our family's mission to provide the Nashville community with locally and organically sourced CBD products. We are passionate about providing high-quality CBD products for everyday use. Tinctures, topicals, and pet products too. We are a Pick 10 company. Our hemp is organically grown and produced in Nashville, Tennessee from sustainably sourced non-GMO genetics. All of our products are lab tested. Find all of our products at CorationCompany.com.
Losing your hair? It's Chase McCabe. No matter your age, gender, or type of hair loss, it's never a good feeling when you see too much hair on your brush or you begin to notice bald spots. For 45 years, Hair Club has helped more than 500,000 members get hair they love. If you're affected by hair loss and not sure what to do, let Hair Club help customize a solution for you. For a limited time, get 10% off when you book a free consultation today and get started at hairclub.com/chase. That's hairclub.com/chase.
What if you could be credit card debt-free in 10 days and save as much as $1,000 a month? Loan Pronto's all-new Express Equity Line of Credit program is just what you need. Hey, Willy Donick here. You don't have to do a full home refi. You can tap a small portion of the equity you have and enjoy a super low monthly payment. With Loan Pronto's Express Equity Credit Line, you can close in 7 to 10 days. And a $50,000 loan would only cost you around $400 a month. Use that money to pay off high-interest credit cards or do a home improvement. You can access up to 90% of your home's equity, and 9 out of 10 homeowners won't even need an appraisal. Even if you did a total refi recently or just bought your home, you can tap the equity with this fast, easy program. Stop the madness and say no to 24% interest fees. Call Loan Pronto today. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
Want to see our smiling faces? You can watch us on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live.
We are good to go.
Presented by Superbook Sports, voted #1 sportsbook in Vegas. Having some fun in the midday.
Okay, that's really fun.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase.
It's a good source of energy because it's live.
On 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
No, conversation went really well. Frank in the weight room has done a good job of letting me know when guys are around because I'm still getting to know these guys. And so I make sure if I know there are players in the building, I go down to the weight room, training room, and they're more than welcome to come in. And Jeffrey was one of the guys that took the invite, and we sat and had a 20-minute, 30-minute conversation, realized we had a lot of people in common. And so it was really a get to know each other and, break ground. But the first question I got when I got the job was from my 6-year-old son, and he asked if Jeffrey Simmons was going to be his boy, And so I had to ask Jeffrey if he wanted to be my 6-year-old son's boy. So Jeffrey's cool with it right now. I told my son, Jeffrey might not like you. So we'll see when we get there. But it was a great conversation, and he's a cool dude.
There you go. That was Rand Carthon at the Combine on Jeffrey Simmons. And we'll get into the Titans' future with Jeffrey Simmons because that just got a whole lot more interesting over the weekend. But the other veteran on this team whose status with the Tennessee Titans is kind of up in the air right now is Derrick Henry. Of course, a report coming out from Michael Silver of Bally Sports. The report is that the Titans were shopping Derrick Henry at the NFL Combine. I know that probably makes Tennessee Titans fans so incredibly nervous and anxious and angry. How dare you trade Derrick Henry? But the reality of it is, he's a $12 million running back who's 29 years old. And I know he was still the second in the NFL in rushing yards. I know that he is still absolutely a force to be reckoned with. Derrick Henry is still that player. When he's on the field, the defense cannot ignore him. The defense has to account for Derrick Henry. And that value it's invaluable for any offense, for any team. But the way that the Titans could look at it is, we're at a really pivotal point in our franchise. We could go one way, we could go a total opposite way, we could try and run it back with our core, but that's a really difficult evaluation that Mike Vrabel and Rand Carthon have of this football team, of where do they go next. And they may view it with Derrick Henry to get out too early rather than too late. But Willy asked a very fair question before the break. What is the value for a 29-year-old running back? What would the market look like for Derrick Henry? And I see all your texts in the text line. Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com. We have a bunch of texts in there demanding the Titans get a first-round pick in return for Derrick Henry. And I think that is completely out of the question. If we learned anything from David Poyle, maybe nothing's out of the question. But to demand a first-round pick for an aging running back who last year, per the numbers, took a bit of a step back. Even though Derrick Henry is still Derrick Henry, he didn't look like the Derrick Henry of a 19 or 20 this past season. I think first-round pick is out of the question, if you would agree.
I'd be really surprised. It does sometimes, right? There's the one team that feels differently than everybody else,
right?
And you get surprised. I think that's why you might do this. Now, I do want to put this. I've been trying to look at this report by Michael Silver. It's really an article about Aaron Rodgers and sort of the entire picture. The Derrick Henry part of this is just sort of dropping his name in. Unless I'm missing something, Caroline, if you've got something else, let me know. But Michael Silver, who's, like I said, a great reporter, he gets a lot of good stuff. But he's just basically throwing Derrick Henry's name into a list of players that are getting shopped in recent days. But he throws them in there with Jalen Ramsey and DeAndre Hopkins, right? These are names that are swirling, but so there's really no detail that he's got in this. I would love to know more detail from him. And obviously, I hope that, the media here, I'm sitting in Vancouver, but the local media follows up with their own questioning on this to see what they can find out. But getting back to your question, I would be really surprised if it's a first-round pick for Derrick Henry. We know the history of running backs, right? We've had this conversation over the last 4 or 5 years with Derrick Henry, and the amount that he's utilized, the fact that very few teams run the ball like the Titans run Derrick Henry. In other words, with the workload, and history shows when guys like that with that workload, they can fall off a cliff, especially when they reach the age that Derrick Henry is getting to. So the teams around the league know that. The Titans know that. And so I do think it's interesting just to gauge what you might be able to get for him. But again, with the contract that he's got, getting much more than a mid-round draft pick would surprise me.
I would say a third is probably the most realistic return for Derrick Henry, a third-round pick. But that also means that you have to have a trading partner. I don't think there's any other team in the NFL that would value Derrick Henry as much as the Tennessee Titans value Derrick Henry, just considering the system and how run-heavy of an offense the Titans run. But I would view the one team that I think could be interesting and probably the most likely trade partner is the Atlanta Falcons. I don't know what the Falcons are going to do at quarterback. They draft the 8th overall pick. So they could get a quarterback, might not get a quarterback. I don't know how the Falcons feel about the quarterbacks in this year's draft or the quarterbacks that could potentially fall to number 8. They could run it back with Desmond Ridder. I don't know what the Falcons plan is at quarterback. But they've got Arthur Smith, who is very familiar with Derrick Henry and the way that he runs and in his system. And also the Falcons have the second most cap space in the NFL. And they only behind the Bears do they have more cap space than any other team in the NFL. And the way that the cap works, it's kind of elastic, right? If you don't spend up to the cap, well, then the NFL is going to start pulling cap space away. So teams need to spend all the way up to the cap. The Falcons have a ton of cap room, and they're either going to go with Desmond Ridder or draft a quarterback. I don't know if necessarily I view the Falcons being in the mix for maybe a Baker Mayfield or another quarterback or a Jimmy G, perhaps. And we know that Aaron Rodgers isn't going to be traded to an NFC team, so kind of throw Aaron Rodgers out there. So the Falcons most likely are not going to be paying a veteran quarterback, yet they still need to fill that $45 million of cap space that they have. So the Falcons have plenty of space to sign Derrick Henry and also continue to retool their team. They've got a fairly young team, and they also play in a pretty weak division. You know, Derek Carr to the Saints makes the Saints a little bit stronger, but the Bucs are probably going to be a big mess. I don't know what the Panthers are going to do at the quarterback position. Maybe they draft a quarterback. Maybe they acquire one of the Jimmy G's or the Baker Mayfields of the world. But I view the NFC South as probably the weakest division in all of football. The Falcons could view this offense and say, look, if we get a veteran guy like Derrick Henry in here, maybe we could compete and win this division in a weak division. So I would view the Falcons as being a potential trade partner for Derrick Henry.
Intriguing. And of course, we're taking this to a level we're not even sure what level they actually are shopping Derrick Henry, but I can certainly see Arthur Smith saying, hey, look, we love to run the ball. They had some games last year where they ran the heck out of the ball with Marcus Mariota and Cordero Patterson. They had a unique way of running it, and I think they were probably, if I were gauging it, more successful than a lot of people thought they would be. I think a lot of people thought that the Falcons would be absolutely awful last year. And they had their moments, right? They had some weeks in there like, okay, I see what he's doing over there. So that could be intriguing for that organization for the reasons you said. And if they've got the money, that's the key. Mm-hmm. If you're not going to spend it elsewhere and you have the ability to take a flyer like that, that could be a fit. I'm not going to rule that out. I still would like to know more of how the Titans feel about this. But, yeah, you're right. If you're going to shop them, you got to have a partner, and that would make some sense. Hopefully you get a couple of teams that would have interest, and you can get them to compete to get more value back if you're going to go down that road.
Yeah, and again, the report is just the Titans are shopping Derrick Henry. That could be a million different things. That could be the Titans are willing and ready to trade Derrick Henry today. That could be the Titans are just trying to gauge the trade market, see what's out there, try and view their options going into next season because they've got so many options of what they could do in this team as a whole. So it doesn't mean Derrick Henry is gone. It doesn't mean Derrick Henry is going today. It just means the Titans are open to those options. And I think